Okay, so I, 26 female, have a toddler son. His dad, 28 male, and I split when he was an infant. My ex's mom started pressuring him to be involved. That's when he threatened to take me to court. Fast forward and our son had a birthday, and our court date finally came. He asked for full custody, and it was denied. He ended up getting supervised visitation 3 days out of the week for an hour. He had to do parental classes, and they would slowly transition our son to spending more time with him. He was also told to only communicate with me if it involved our son. He wasn't happy with this, and neither was his mom. So he didn't show up for his visitation time with our son, and he regularly called and texted me, telling me I was a horrible mother for not letting him just come pick him up and take him to the park instead of the visitation center. 2 months later, and the calls and texts haven't stopped, I informed my attorney of the situation. She got us in for an emergency hearing. The next court date was set 6 months from the last one. Court date comes and my ex doesn't show up. The judge tells me they'll be sending a notice that his parental rights will be terminated if he doesn't comply with his court orders. Now it's the day of court again, and he actually shows up, but he's requested a DNA test to prove paternity because he believes our son is not biologically his. So that's the reason he didn't do his court orders. The judge accepted the request and said as soon as they get results, we'll be notified when the next court day is. Results finally came back and prove he's the father. But before the next court date, my ex's attorney says he's decided to relinquish his parental rights and doesn't want to move forward with the court. So the case is closed, and I have full custody. My ex's mom ends up taking me back to court to try and get grandparents' rights because she wants visitation and possibly overnight visits as well. The judge denies her request and tells her I've been the only one financially and physically responsible for the care of my son since he's been born, and it would be solely up to me if she has a relationship with him. This is where I feel like an idiot. My son is now a toddler, and she just contacted me asking if she could take her grandchild out for ice cream and a trip to the park. I asked what date she'd like us to spend time with her, and she said not me, just him and her. So I refused and said I'm uncomfortable with that because he doesn't know her. So now she and her son are both texting me, calling me selfish. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Her son gave up all parental rights. The court denied her a right to him, and you have all the legal rights over your child. So if she genuinely wants to see him and have a relationship with him, she'll just have to deal with you being there. 100% this. Grandma has no right to ask for unsupervised visitation, especially considering all the crap they put OP through in the first place. I would do the same, i.e. not allow her to see my child unless I was present at all times. The audacity of some people astounds me. I figure she wants to establish a relationship with her grandson so that she can file for grandparents' rights custody again. The other thing too, who's to say you allow this ice cream outing unsupervised? Next thing you know, she's up and disappears with your son. This is exactly what I thought the second she said she didn't want mom there. I'm generally not one to jump to conclusions, but first they wanted full custody. They showed blatant disregard for court orders by harassing you and refusing to comply with the ruling. And now she wants unsupervised time with your toddler? She's trying to kidnap your baby. Agree, open your eyes, OP. There are some crazy grandmas around. They're showing you again what kind of people you're dealing with, so please protect your kid from them and don't ever let them be alone with your son until they show you that they've changed, which I doubt will ever happen. 100% this. Let the daycare, preschool, babysitters all know the names and faces of ex and ex's mom so that they won't inadvertently allow your son to leave the grounds with them. Grandma's behavior is suspicious, and I wouldn't put anything past her. My teen female, dad 54, is married to Jacob, 50 male, and to be honest, I don't like Jacob as he just annoys me. I don't know if they intentionally do what they do or if they don't even realize they're doing it, but either way it makes me mad, which is why I dislike Jacob very much. I can never get alone time with just my mom and my dad without Jacob being there. And I've said that I want my dad and mom there all the time, but it doesn't even matter to them because Jacob just turns up either way. And yes, I've communicated with them about this, but it's like they don't even listen. Yesterday was supposed to be only me, my mom, and my dad going to an amusement park and my half-sister, Toddler, my mom's daughter. I told my dad and Jacob that I didn't want Jacob there, but guess what? He turned up anyways. Also, this event was for me, and it wasn't an event that was for the whole family. It was for me, and I only wanted my sister, mom, and dad to be there. I was angry when Jacob turned up, so instead of letting it go like I normally do, I lashed out at my dad and Jacob for Jacob being there. I told my dad that Jacob didn't always need to come along and that he needed to stop bringing Jacob to my events, and I said I didn't want him to attend. My dad was pissed, and Jacob started crying, which only made me madder. Jacob is a grown man, and I talked to him about this, so it's not like he was clueless about the whole thing. So I didn't understand why he was crying, and maybe I was a bit harsh when I lashed out, but that was because I've been gentle with this many times, and I was just done with being gentle with them, so I lashed out. Not to mention my mom's paying for all of this, so she was also angry that Jacob just turned up when he wasn't supposed to be there. I never see my dad without Jacob being there, and it just gets so tiring when you can't even talk to your dad alone with his husband or wife being there. My mom and family are completely on my side, but my dad and Jacob are angry with me. So am I the idiot? Edit. I didn't plan this trip. My mom did and paid for everything. My mom was also angry that he turned up. You are the idiot for trying to play house with your mom and dad. They're not a couple. You cannot pretend they are. Your dad wants his husband around when he needs to be near your mom. That's fair. There's no reason why you need time with both your parents at the same time, to the exclusion of Jacob. They will never be a couple, and pretending they will be a couple isn't healthy for you. It sucks that your dad brought Jacob on this particular trip, but you suck because you clearly refused to give Jacob a chance. Like it or not, sweetheart, he's your new stepdad. Your relationship with your dad will only worsen if you refuse to respect his husband. You're old enough to know better. Not the idiot. Jacob wasn't invited. Your dad brought him when someone else's time, effort, and money went into planning this trip. I don't know what issue's going on that your dad always brings Jacob, but you've already discussed this with both, so it's about time that they listen to you. You deserve to spend time with your parents. I'm confused at some of the people here. OP is still a kid and can't get 5 minutes of alone time with her dad. She's vocalized the concern multiple times, and it sounds like he doesn't really care. Granted, I'm sure there's more to this story, but even without the provided context, Dad sounds like the idiot here. My husband, 39 male, and I, 35 female, have been married for 6 years. We don't have kids and don't plan on having any. That was a big point of contention with his parents, as his mom kept asking me when we would have kids. My husband finally told her he got a vasectomy, and she stopped asking, but all the nagging about it soured my relationship with his parents, especially his mom. About 9 months ago, my father-in-law passed away. It was pretty sudden and traumatic for my husband and his family. His mom is heartbroken, and I've been trying to sympathize with her and support her as best I can. A few months ago, my husband and his siblings convinced their mom to sell her home and move into a smaller apartment or townhome. She eventually relented, but I don't think she wanted to do it. Her home hasn't sold yet, but they've been moving all of her stuff into storage, and mother-in-law has been staying with her kids. She stayed with us twice, each for about 3 weeks. Those 2 visits were a nightmare for me. I hate having extended guests, and all this strenuous relationship with mother-in-law just got exacerbated. I know she's grieving, but she's not a pleasant person to be around right now, and I feel like she was taking a lot of her grief out on me personally. A couple of weeks ago, my husband took a long weekend along with his sister to take their mom on a trip to try and cheer her up. I used that time to myself to turn our guest room into a hobby room for me. My husband and I had been talking about doing that for years but never got around to it. So I finally took the initiative and got it started. It's not completely finished, but it's more of a hobby room than a guest room right now. When my husband got back, he didn't even notice. It took him almost a week before he finally saw what I did. He immediately blew up at me. He accused me of doing this behind his back so that mother-in-law couldn't stay with us anymore. I reminded him that we had been talking about this for years, so it's not like it's a surprise plan. I told her mother-in-law would be getting her own place soon, and she could just stay with his siblings until they got that stuff figured out. He told me that he knew me better than that, and he couldn't believe that I would be so underhanded and sneaky. He told me that this level of pettiness is not a good look, and he couldn't believe I would do something so juvenile. He told me that I should have asked his permission first, and I told him I didn't need his permission to do something in our home that we had talked about for years. He told me that I could try to lie to him all I wanted, but that he knew I did this out of spite against his mom. I told him that's ridiculous, and that he's letting his mom's grief cloud his judgment. He's been threatening to change the room back so that his mom can stay with us again, but I told him not to touch a single thing, and that he needs to focus that energy on figuring out his mom's long-term plans. You are the idiot, and yes, you absolutely did do this behind his back, so your mother-in-law can't stay with you anymore. Underhanded, sneaky, and disrespectful of your partner and your marriage. Your husband also lost his father. You know that, right? Why didn't you begin converting the guest room to a hobby room while your husband was at home if you weren't being dishonest? Sorry, but I'm not interested in what you're trying to sell because it doesn't smell right. She may be unpleasant, but she's grieving her husband, and now that home that probably held a lot of memories for her. Stop pretending to be the victim here. Mother-in-law lost her husband. She's losing her home. Your husband lost his father. The entire family's trying to sort out what to do, and you essentially evicted the woman from your home by commandeering the spare bedroom for your stuff. How selfish. How insensitive and self-centered. How petty and mean-spirited. Wow. My husband and I have been trying to have kids for 3 years. I've had a series of losses, and not a single pregnancy was successful. Our recent loss was a month ago, and although my husband never said anything up until now, this was a difficult time for me personally. The tension and emotions are overwhelming, and I've become too sensitive even if someone mentions the topic. He took me to his family's house for dinner last night, and his mom brought up my loss. The look of disappointment on her face made me lose my appetite completely. She went on and on about what may have caused it, and then my husband chimed in and said that he's starting to conclude that maybe I'm incapable of being a mom. I was floored for 2 reasons. One is that he'd even say such a thing. 2 is that no doctor has told me that there was something wrong with me specifically, so for him to declare I was incapable of bearing children and being a mom hurt like a sting. I looked at him and he was like, "What?" Then he told me not to get offended since he was being honest. He said he loves me and thinks I'm perfect, but still thinks that I'm flawed in that area, referring to motherhood. I had it at that point. I just got up from my seat, took my stuff, and headed for the door. I said nothing and just made my way out. He shouted at me, but I didn't stop. I went home and he came and started unloading on me about how immature, too sensitive, and ridiculous I was. He said he was giving his honest opinion about the matter, and I have no right to police the words that come out of his mouth. Whether I like what I'm hearing or not, it's still the truth. We argued some, then we stopped talking altogether. He keeps saying I exaggerated and walked out during dinner and disrespected him and his family over literally nothing. I'm unsure if I handled this the right way or yet acted out of emotions. Am I the idiot? Your next words to him should be, "To be the best mother to my future kids, I probably need to shed some pounds. How much do you weigh again?" And then leave his dumb butt. Honestly, he's trash. And if his own family didn't react disgusted at what he says, then you know where he got it. Not the idiot. You deserve better. I'm almost speechless. I am so very sorry for your loss and heartache. Before you consider another try, I think you may want to reevaluate whether this is the man you want to parent with forever. His insensitivity is outrageous, and then he doubled down by attacking again at home behind his interpretation of the truth. What a total idiot. Please consider counseling for yourself, for your grief and frustration, and to determine whether you really want to continue with this abusive bore. Genuinely, I don't believe there's such a thing as too sensitive when it comes to your own loss. Seriously, and what your husband said wasn't the truth. It was his evil, crappy opinion that he should have never ever voiced aloud to you. Do not have kids with this man. He's probably the type that's just brutally honest. God, I hate those people. Your mother-in-law was wrong to bring it up. It's not for group discussion. I hope you know this, but you didn't cause your loss, and your mother-in-law shouldn't have implied you did. How quickly his family looked at you as the apparent cause is how quickly you should consider finding a better husband. OP, you've not handled it the right way. The right way is to change the locks, send him to mom and divorce him. Honesty without kindness is cruelty. No one deserves to be treated like that. I live in a flat in a building owned by my ex's parents because they like me and my ex asked them to. They only charge me around 5% of the price it would cost me to rent it from them. I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 2 years, and he asked to move in with me after he found out my ex moved back to London and was living in the same building as me. While I would love to live with him, I also know it would mean we would pay the full rent amount, which is just not affordable for me, even with him paying half. In addition, I don't want to move to another location because this flat is fantastic, and I doubt I'll ever be able to live here again, so I want to enjoy it until I can't anymore. When I told him no, my boyfriend got super angry at me because he thought I was lying about the rent going up if he moved in, and he also told me I couldn't keep leeching from my ex's family my whole life when I wouldn't change my mind. Am I the idiot? What's the end game here? You've been together for 2 years. Wanting to live together at this point is pretty normal. However, I wouldn't be comfortable being in a relationship for 2 years where we couldn't progress to the next step, living together, because of an ex subsidizing of my partner's living situation. On the other hand, I can't fault you for not wanting to give it up, but it may be at the expense of your current relationship. I just thought that. I wouldn't want to wait around for my partner for that long. Plus, moving in is basically a test run to see if you're compatible for the long haul. So she's kind of wasting both their time, honestly. OP, you're basically being paid by your ex's family, never to progress romantically. I think your boyfriend is more serious about you than you are about him, but you may want to reconsider what your flat is costing you here. If I were OP, I 100% wouldn't move in with him. Living together is a massive step in any relationship. Do it because it feels right and both parties want to. The boyfriend can voice his concerns, many of which are valid, but living together solely because the boyfriend is jealous that the ex lives nearby is a recipe for disaster. Let's be generous and say he trusts his girlfriend. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. The problem is he doesn't trust the ex, who clearly isn't over her. Nobody gives an ex an essentially $1,000 plus check every month because of friends. Nobody. Likely the next time the boyfriend and girlfriend fights, the ex is at her door with a gallon of ice cream, a bottle of wine, and a shoulder to cry on. There's a reason couples have boundaries where exes are concerned. I am a single mom of 2 boys, tweens. Their father and I divorced 5 years ago after I learned he was cheating on me. He got her pregnant right before he told me, and that was why he confessed, or right after. But our divorce was not an easy one. He wanted to stay friends, and I couldn't look at him after what he did. He and I were together for over 13 years. He was also a friend before he was my boyfriend and husband, and to have him betray me and treat me that way was awful. He married his affair partner. They had a daughter within months of our separation, followed by a son after our divorce in their marriage. Last year, they lost a baby, which led to the discovery that his wife had cancer. What followed was a lot of fighting between the two of us again. He wanted me to help him and his wife out. He said their children, currently very young, needed family beyond just him and his wife. His own family disowned him for our divorce. They were highly religious, and she has no family. I told him it would be over my dead body. I would help him. He argued that it was for the children, and if not for his kids with her, then for our boys, who could see their family heal and be one. I told him he stopped any chance of that happening when he cheated on me. I didn't expect him to tell his daughter's school to call me when she got sick. He was at work at the time and couldn't leave apparently because he had already missed a lot of work due to his wife, who was at home recovering from chemo. I got the call and was asked if I would pick her up, and I said no. Several hours later, I got reamed on the phone by him for leaving his sick child at school when I knew they had nobody. This was when he told me he couldn't leave and that his wife was resting. I told him the babysitter for his son should have been called over me. He told me he was in daycare and I should be ashamed because he was a sick child who was going through a lot, and I could have helped. He told me he hoped our sons would be ashamed of me. They aren't, and I argued back with him over the phone at the time. But I guess part of me does feel bad for the child. My sons also sensed an atmosphere while they were with their dad after the incident when they talked about me, and I hate that for them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. What kind of fool lists his ex-wife as the emergency contact for his affair child? The audacity of him to get mad at you. The only children of his you need to care for are the ones you share with him. Do not let him tell you otherwise. Too bad he tanked his own life, but that's not your problem. If he can't handle the situation he got himself into, he needs to figure out how to get through it. You're not responsible for his mistakes. While it's unfortunate his wife has cancer, you're still not obligated to help him at all with anything except related to your children. He can apologize and make amends with family, or go out and make friends and get the support that way. It's not your job. This makes me think you're his backup too. He needs a woman who'll put up with his BS, which smells like he's preparing for either outcome with his affair wife. If he ropes you in now, and then she passes, he'll have a backup wife who will take responsibility for his affair children. I wouldn't be surprised if, should the new wife lose to cancer, the ex was trying to get back together with OP to try to win her over and get her to marry him again. Not just for taking on mothering roles for him, but full on becoming his wife again. Honestly, I was wondering if this was something that can be solved by going back to court as well. There's got to be a way to force this man to back off from trying to force his affair child on his ex-wife. OP, please sign your kids up for some counseling, because this guy's a jerk when he doesn't get what he wants, and they should have the tools to deal with their father's BS behavior. Make sure you contact the school and tell them to remove your contact details from the records of any child that isn't yours. And unless they're told directly from you, they're not to contact you regarding these children. My sister has been dating this guy, Josh, for around 7 years now, with seemingly no intent to get married. My sister believes marriage is a scam, doesn't desire it at all, and is fine with being just a girlfriend to her boyfriend. Multiple times my parents and I have tried explaining to her that getting married is not just about wearing a wedding dress and all, and that there are legal advantages and perks that she won't be able to have if she's unmarried. She said there are solutions, and marriage is neither a wish for her nor Josh. We are deeply conservative and religious and take marriage seriously. So when I had my wedding a few months ago, I didn't invite Josh because he's not officially tied to my sister. I told her she could have her views on marriage and I can have mine, and if she wants me to respect her decisions and views, she has to respect mine too. And I'm uncomfortable with inviting couples who are neither engaged nor married to my wedding. She held it against us for all these months, only attended the ceremony, stayed at the reception for half an hour, and then left. So she was basically absent from my wedding. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, she got into an accident and was hospitalized for a few days. The hospital had a strict close relatives only policy, and basically only my parents could visit my sister as first-degree relatives. So Josh couldn't see her, and he was mad that they wouldn't allow him. She was out of the hospital soon with no serious injuries, but I used what happened as an opportunity to teach my sister why her being a little girlfriend is way different from being a wife. If she and Josh were married, he wouldn't have missed out on visiting her in the hospital, so his lack of visitation is their fault. My sister now believes I'm the idiot for using her accident to teach her a lesson, but I don't believe I am, since maybe this could be a wake-up call for both of them. You are the idiot. You became the idiot the second you started punishing her for her opinion. I've never heard of someone requiring couples at a wedding to be engaged or married, ever. And I'm square in the heart of the Bible Belt, where they teach abstinence in schools with a straight face. But you're right that being married offers important legal advantages, and it's not just about tradition, but excluding her longtime boyfriend from your wedding and lecturing her after a serious accident that put her in the hospital? You suck. And honestly, you're a case study in how religious conservatives manage to miss the point of Christian teaching. You decided to hurt someone who should be a close friend and partner because she didn't follow the letter of the law as you see it. I'd recommend reading about the Pharisees and taking a good long look in the mirror. Hospitals respect common law relationships as being a close family. However, the family obviously made it clear to hospital staff that he was not to be included, which is just sickening. My SO and I have been together for almost 10 years. Never once has he been turned away at the hospital while I was there for not being legally married. The family prevented him from visiting, not the hospital. Terrible. OP, you're wrong on so many levels. First, her relationship is none of your business, and your methods of forcing them together in marriage might end in no contact with her. Worry about your own relationship and stay out of other people's. And yes, using an emergency situation to shove your ideals down someone's throat is absolutely idiot behavior, hands down. My 45 female, mother 76, is a very simple person. My father abandoned us when the youngest was an infant, and my mother was never the same mentally. I have a good financial condition. I try to help her as much as I can with groceries and bills, but it's very complicated because my mother refuses to come live with me and remains in the terrible house that my father gave her in the divorce. My brother, my sister-in-law, and their 3 children, a young male teen, a male tween, and a younger female, live in the house at the back. And the house was tiny with a big yard. My brother built his house in the back and made the house even smaller, and he used my mom as a free babysitter to take care of the kids he had, not to mention the dogs he adopted, and never paid for their food, and several times their children went to eat at my mother's house. Keep in mind that my mother receives a low salary in retirement that's only really enough for her to support herself. I've been saving money for over a decade to buy her a house, and I finally got it. It's a simple house with 1 bed, bath, and a big yard with a garden perfect for her. I talked to her, and she agreed that it would be better for the house to be in my name because I know my brothers and what they're capable of at any given opportunity, but it would have a lifetime usufruct clause for her only. I warned her that I didn't want my brother to move with her, but in return, she wouldn't have to worry about bills and food anymore, as I would help. She looked relieved. I told my brother at her request she was next to me, and he said it would be difficult to accommodate everyone, but that eventually he would help expand the house to include everyone. I saw the despair on my mother's face, so I made it clear that the house was for my mother and not for them. He started to say yes, but he could help with the bills or the food, and that his and his mother's house was too bad for a family of 5. I said no. Our mother accepted the gift, knowing that he wouldn't live there, and that due to their history, I wouldn't trust him to pay the bills. He doesn't pay my mother, and I wouldn't be paying for 5 people. He started calling me selfish, and that it was an idiot move to give a gift on condition, knowing how bad my mom's house is, and that she obviously had no other option to accept. He said I was purposely harming him and posing as a monster he's not. My mom is more relieved to get out of the house, but my brothers call me an idiot even more because the house is in my name. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're saving your mom from your mooch of a brother, and he's just being spiteful because you're doing so in a way that he can't exploit. However, if you haven't already, you should consider consulting an attorney to have a plan to enforce keeping your brother out of your mother's house. I should say your house because you're the owner, fortunately. You can't take action if he tries to step over the line and invade her space, your property. And make sure you let him know you've consulted a lawyer, and there will be consequences if he does anything improper. Great idea. I realize the brother may have just been angry, but he did accuse the OP of trying to harm him. Having a lawyer look over this situation to ensure that both the OP and the mother are protected sounds smart. By the way, the OP is a woman. A lot of the insults the brother uses are common when a man is upset with a woman. So this is a daughter trying to protect her mother from her brothers. Good luck keeping them out. That was very kind of you to help your mother out. You don't owe your brother anything. He's a leech and jealous of your mom's new home. Strongly suggest putting a Ring doorbell to keep an eye so they don't try any sketchy stuff like trying to stay overnight and then never leaving. Freeloaders and gaslighters are the best at turning good deeds into harmful and manipulative actions because it doesn't suit them. If they have a problem with supporting themselves, it's time for them to figure it out. They've gotten 2 decades of extra help. You don't owe them anything else. My sister Jennifer is a horrible person. My sister divorced her first husband, Wayne, to marry her current husband, Lance. Lance is also an awful person. Lance said he didn't want to raise Wayne and Jennifer's daughter, Andrea, and only cared about having biological children. As a result, Jennifer gave full custody to Wayne because Lance was more important to her than Andrea. No one in the family has spoken to Jennifer since. Andrea was a toddler when Jennifer left her for Lance. Andrea is in grammar school and was raised by Wayne and his wife, Emily. Andrea knows Emily's not her biological mother, but my niece says Emily's her real mom anyway, and she doesn't care to know who her birth mom is. We have a great child therapist ready if Andrea ever needs her, but Andrea says she's not needed her yet. Andrea's birthday was 2 weeks ago. We went to Build-A-Bear, and I bought her a bear with several accessories. I also got her a Mickey Mouse waffle maker. Andrea was so happy that she was smiling the entire day. Wayne and Emily posted pictures of Andrea on the family website, eating Mickey Mouse waffles, saying they were delicious, courtesy of myself. I blocked Jennifer on all social media. It was a friend who got a message from Jennifer that was meant to go to me. Jennifer explained in the message that my nephews, Colton and Ryder, were starting school soon, and she and Lance struggled to afford school supplies. And because I was buying fancy gifts for Andrea, I could surely spare $100 to cover Colton and Ryder's school supplies. I don't even know how Jennifer found those pictures because the family website is supposed to be password protected. I told Jennifer that I would not be sending a dime to her or Lance. She abandoned Andrea for some guy. She doesn't get to come back to the family she left now that she needs a favor. And besides, she and Lance are grown-ups, and if they can't afford things, it's not my problem. Jennifer told me how awful of an uncle I was and kept trying to get me to call her, but I had my friend block her, and that was over. Several people, like my coworker, are saying that I should be the bigger person for Ryder and Colton because they're innocent in this, and it's unfair that they go without school supplies because their parents can't afford them. They said I could donate the school supplies directly so I wouldn't have to worry about Jennifer or Lance misspending the money. I have no relationship with my nephews, and people say this is a great opportunity to become involved in their lives and be a positive role model where Jennifer and Lance may fail them. I get it's not fair to Ryder and Colton, but it's ridiculous for me to subsidize their schooling expenses while having no physical or emotional role in their lives. Besides, if Jennifer and Lance genuinely can't afford school supplies, there are programs to help them. Not the idiot. The issue with helping your nephews this way is that it opens the door for your sister to demand more and more. Quote Lance back to him, "Not my biological child, not my burden. Keep spoiling your niece. She's lucky to have people who love her." I would respond with, "All the money you saved by abandoning your daughter should be enough to cover school supplies." Any people trying to guilt you into giving Jennifer money are free to donate their own money if they're so concerned. Jennifer made her bed, as it were, and now she gets to lie in it. I hate when people say children are innocent when they're used as weapons to force contact. I hate being the bigger person and taking the high roads. If you open this door, you won't be able to close it. Also, someone gave her the password. Change it again. If she gets on the website, look for the person who's leaking to her. My male 36, wife 27, and I just purchased our first home. We've always rented before. I'm what my grandmother called a shade tree mechanic. I work on my car and other people's cars just in my shop when I have time. It's a side hustle. I'm a teacher in real life, so is she. I in the past have gotten grease and dirt on our hand towels, and she's told me off, so I don't do it anymore. Not for a long time anyway. Our new home has 2.5 bathrooms, including one we have for guests. She decorated with all that stuff to make it look nice. Honestly, it's nicer than she decorated our ensuite in our room. She spent all week getting the house ready for our friends and family. She's very happy to show off our new home, as am I. I cleaned up the backyard and the shop to show my friends and family where I goof off. One thing she did was leave a note pinned to the hand towels in the guest bathroom. It said, "If you touch these, I will end you," and she had drawn a little skull and crossbones. When it was time for everyone to come, she told me to check everything and make sure it looked nice. I suppose one of the things I should have done is remove the note. I did not. We had an excellent party, and everyone left with a full belly and a smile. The day after the party, we were cleaning up, and I heard her call me by my name. She never calls me by my name. I hadn't done anything bad recently, so I wasn't sure why I was in trouble. I had not touched the hand towels, and neither had anyone else. They were immaculate. She says I did it on purpose to make her look bad. I just missed the note. She called her mom, and I heard her saying it was my fault people thought she didn't want them using her towels. It's such a minor thing, but she's still mad at me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but this is hilarious. Imagine being a guest and thinking you're not allowed to touch the hand towels because of an out-of-context sign. You'll both laugh at this one day. The funniest part is him trying to figure out why he's in trouble because she called him by name. He's innocent. Forgive the man. Not the idiot, and the sign is awesome. However, I would intentionally leave that sign for guests and put paper towels in the bathroom. Mistakes happen. This one happens to be harmless and hilarious. All you can do is apologize for forgetting the note and leave it at that. You can either laugh with your spouse or fight with them in marriage. When things get stressful, the more you laugh and find humor with them, the better and happier your marriage will be.